Have you ever wondered who really runs the African Union? We all know it's supposed to be the Vojskova, Holofoki President 5 Member States. But when you look closely at who foots the bill, a different, more complicated picture emerges. Let's peel back the layers and see who's really calling the shots. First, a quick refresher on the AU's structure. It's modeled a bit like the European Union. You have the Assembly, which is made up of all the heads of state and government from member countries. This is the supreme decision-making body. Then there's the Executive Council, with foreign ministers who prepare decisions for the Assembly. And you have the African Union Commission, which is the Secretariat, the engine room that handles the day-to-day work, led by a chairperson. It sounds like a solid, Africa-led organization, right? But governing a continent-wide body is incredibly expensive. We're talking about peacekeeping, missions, development programs, administrative costs, and so much more. This is where things get interesting. So, how is all of this funded? The AU's budget is divided into three main parts: the operational budget, the program budget, and the peace support operations budget. The operational budget, for things like salaries and running the headquarters in Addis Ababa, is supposed to be funded entirely by member states. This is based on a contribution scale where larger economies pay more. For a long time, countries Algeria, Egypt, Libya, and 0.5% of this. But event 10, many fell behind on the gap. This is where external partners come in. The program budget, which covers all the AU's actual projects and initiatives. And the Peace Fund, which finances security operations, have been overwhelmingly funded by foreign donors. We're talking about the European Union, the United States, China, the World Bank, and other non-African countries and organizations. For years, these external partners have been funding over half, and sometimes up to 70 or 80% of the AU's total budget. Think about that. The very programs that are meant to drive Africa's development and security are largely paid for by non-African entities. Now, this raises a crucial question. How can a non-African state or entity influence decisions at the O? It's not like they get a formal seat at the Assembly of Heads of State. The influence is much more subtle. And it often comes through something called strategic partnerships. The AU has partnerships with numerous non-African countries and blocs. These partners don't vote, but they are deeply involved in dialogue, policy shaping, and, most importantly, funding specific projects. When a donor provides millions of dollars for a specific program, say, on counterterrorism or trade policy, they naturally have a say in how that program is designed and implemented. Their priorities can shape the AU's agenda. It's not a formal vote, but it's a powerful form of influence. They can champion certain initiatives and let others wither on the vine by simply choosing where to put their money. This leads us to the uncomfortable question: whose union is it, really? If the people paying for the party are also choosing the music, can we truly say it's Africa's party? The policy who polls are very relevant. When the O relies so heavily on external funding, it creates a dependency that can compromise its autonomy. Decisions might be made not just based on what's best for Africa, but also on what aligns with the interests and priorities of the donors. This isn't to say that the donors have malicious intent, but their national interests will always be a factor. An external partner might fund a peacekeeping mission in a region where they have economic interests, while another, equally critical crisis elsewhere gets less attention because it is not a strategic priority for the funders. To tackle this solution, in 2016, they launched a major financing reform led by President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. The plan was to implement a 0.2% levy on eligible imports coming into the continent, which would go directly to funding the O. The goal was self-sufficiency, to fund 100% of the operational budget, 75% of the program budget, and 25% of peace support operations. The idea is simple and powerful. If Africa funds its own union, Africa will own its union, but progress has been slow. While many countries have signed on, implementation has been patchy. The political will to collect and transfer the funds hasn't always been there, and the dependency on external partners continues. Now let's zoom out and look at another layer of foreign influence: the military presence. The number of foreign soldiers on African soil is significant and complex. It's not just one country. It's a web of different forces with different mandates. The United States, through AFRICOM, has troops in numerous countries, primarily focused on counter-terrorism training and support. France has a long-standing military presence, especially in the Sahel, under operations like Barkhane. China has its first overseas military base in Djibouti, strategically located near a major global shipping lane. Turkey, the UAE, Russia, they all have a military footprint on the continent. And that's not even counting the UN peacekeepers, who are often funded by, you guessed it, major global powers. So what is the end goal of all this foreign involvement, both financial and military? Officially, it's about promoting stability, fighting terrorism, and fostering development. And in many cases, the support is genuinely needed and does good. African nations often lack the resources to tackle vast security challenges on their own. However, it's also about strategic interests. Africa is a continent rich in natural resources, with a young, growing population and massive economic potential. For global powers, having influence in Africa is about securing access to resources, opening new markets for their goods, and gaining a strategic foothold in a continent that is becoming increasingly important on the world stage. It's a new scramble for Africa. Buttisti meets about drawing more about influence 3 days. Security partnerships and economic deals. The heavy reliance on external funding for the O is a symptom of this broader dynamic. It creates a situation where the continent's own agenda can be sidelined. True independence for the African Union and for Africa as a whole will only come when it can stand on its own 2 feet financially. The 0.2% levy is a step in the right direction, but it requires unwavering commitment from every member state. Until then, the question of who funds the O will continue to be a question of who really runs the O. It's a critical conversation we need to keep having. Thanks for watching. If you found this insightful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.